What's up, everybody? This is going to be episode 6 of In the Groove podcast. I hope you guys are all kind of getting ready to go because it looks like we are slowly approaching the runway to take off to the 2020 race season. Back at it again. All right, what's up, everybody? It is your man Sam here with episode 6 of In the Groove podcast, where we're just gonna dive right into this one. The guy that I'm bringing on today needs no introduction. If you've over the past any years, if you've ever listened to anything that has to do with drag racing, with anything in the racing, and you've tuned into Competition Plus, we have Bobby Bennett on the line, and we're just going to talk racing, right, Bobby?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yep. So let's just go ahead and introduce yourself to the In the Groove world, what you're about, what you've done. For anybody that doesn't know who you are, just kind of let them know, paint that picture for them.
Well, I'm the man that was crazy enough to start an internet magazine back in 1999 when people wanted to know how I could sell advertising on a magazine they couldn't take to the bathroom with them. And 20 years later, everybody takes their phone and our internet magazine to the bathroom with them.
So you just become the hot man. 1999. Let me think back to what I was doing in '99. I was
So
still.
you were in the second grade, right?
I mean, I was only 9 years old, so I was turning 9 December 30th of 1999. So I did just give away my age there, but that's all right. And so for people that don't know, I've worked for Bobby in the Competition Plus team. Great organization, great people to work with, and so it's so fun. We met kind of in the hall at PRI 2019, right before kind of all this craziness started happening. We kind of just started talking, met, and then things have taken off from there. So, like I said, I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to taking the risk on me, and just working together on the things we have worked on. And I think the future is pretty bright with everything that's kind of turning around with all this. But another thing that it really, I think, changed our relationship is something that and most people in the racing industry know about, but for the people that may be listening or in my area that don't know, Bobby was unfortunately affected by the coronavirus, and I know we're going to talk about it, so we might as well just get it out of the way.
Wait a minute, Sam. Let's just call it what it is. I suffered from the bio warfare weapon launched on the United States from China.
All right.
Okay,
well,
let's just call it what it is.
Let's call it what it is. Exactly. So, I mean, I think if anything, right, that kind of solidified our relationship a little bit more because it was kind of in a time where we were talking every day, and we were just checking on each other, seeing how everything was going, and through the process, you're like, hey, I have this, and hey, this, and I know when you came out with your story, I was sitting there, and I you had already told me, and I go back to read the article and everything that you talked about, and I'm just like, man, I talked to you every day during that time.
Well, I had the distinct honor of being the first person to be diagnosed with COVID-19 in two different towns, in two different hospitals. Lucky me. Some people win the lottery. I win COVID-19. That's the way it rolls sometimes. But that was a lot of people don't understand. I mean, even though I was running a fever at times that went as high as 104, it was like 5 straight days that your whole body is insides are being baked. I mean, baked and inside, and you wonder, by Thursday, I'm wondering, is this going to have long-term lasting effects to my insides? And the funny thing is about the whole thing is when we go back to when this whole pandemic started to rear its head in the media, and trust me, I know how media can manipulate stuff. I don't manipulate stuff. I tell it like it is. But I'm telling you, I've seen some of my media members that will do anything for traffic. But so we leave the whole weekend that we're working at the March meet. We're like, oh, dude, I know how to. I know I'm not worried about the coronavirus. I can heal it with the limes. That was just a joke. We were just carrying on, working at Bakersfield. Little did I know that within 24 hours of leaving Bakersfield, I got on an airplane that evening at midnight Monday morning to fly a red eye flight back to Charlotte. You were on assignment for me in Orlando at the same time. So I was on that flight, and I get on there, and there's everybody coughing around me, and I'm like, oh, good gracious. But still, it didn't. The coronavirus and COVID-19 was something that happened to other people, not me, because you come to think you're invincible and you get on that airplane, which, over the last few years, I averaged about 110,000 miles a year covering all over the United States to cover races. Already, I had been back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast 7 times by early March. So, I was pretty well jet lagged, but I was jet lagged in shape. You get conditioned for it. Well, when you're on a flight, you just kind of at nighttime you just lay back and go to sleep because you say, that's what you do. You're not going to stay up all night flying on the airplane. So I get off the airplane and I'm fine working, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm getting ready to leave for Gainesville, and I leave for Gainesville, and I get about an hour and a half away from Gainesville. And you're going to love this, Sam. I get a call from Roger Richards, our longtime staff photographer for 20 years. He's been with me. So he calls me and says, "You might as well turn around and go back home. They postponed the event." These were my exact words, and you're going to get a chuckle out of this. Oh my gosh, they are just exaggerating this whole political mess. This stuff ain't nothing but a fraud.
Well, and this is funny that you say that because Roger was there with he was there with me in Orlando. So we're interacting with each other and everything like this. And I remember vivid, and Wes and I have talked about this. Wes Buck, I was going to the top end right before the final round. For pro mod right before the final round. So a driver goes off the big end and gets into the sand, and I'm walking down there just because I wanted to get some footage of it, just to have extra footage. And I remember Wes Buck coming up, and he goes, "Sam, you need a ride?" And I was like, "Well, that'd be awesome, right? Like, yeah, if you give me a ride, that would be awesome." So I hop in, the minivan that he had, and he has this walkie-talkie that he's talking with the tower and everything like that, and he has it in his mouth, and he goes, "Man, I'm probably gonna get coronavirus from this." And then he goes, "What am I talking about?" And you can tell me if I'm wrong because this sounds just like Wes. "Man, drag racers don't get coronavirus. It just doesn't happen to us. We do burnouts. We smell alcohol all the time. Like, it's not going to happen to anyone in the racing community, right?" So now he's got my gears turning. I'm like, dude, I flew from, Minnesota to Orlando, not really, you knew it was going on, but at the same time, it was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Okay, it's going on. It's happening. Like, this is the life that we live today. Like, this is just it, right? And then during the whole time I was in Orlando, you didn't really think about it. I was 7 miles, maybe 5 miles from the track. I went to the track. I went to Walmart. I went back to my hotel. And that's just what I did. I was around racing, and you kind of forget about it. But then all of a sudden, Monday morning, I'm back at the airport, and it's like, yeah, people are wearing masks, and people are wiping down their seats. And I'm like, man, let's just get on the airplane and so I can get back home.
Yeah.
But
Well, the funny thing is that I turned around and left the. I was on the interstate. I got about as far as Columbia, South Carolina. It's about a 90-minute drive for me. I still had about 6 hours to go, and I'm driving back, and I said, "Well, cool. I get a weekend off. I've been on the road for 7 weekends in a row, so now I finally get to stay home with my family. I even get to go watch my girls play softball tonight. Everything is starting to look like a positive. I finally get a break. So I get home and I do all that, and I get up Friday morning and I go to work. I start working like, how am I going to fill all this time that we're not going to have any racing stories going on? So let me start working on stuff. And that's when I started drafting the plans for the Virtual Reality Hot Rod Association, basically a fan vote drag race series. But as the day went on, I started to feel weaker. I just didn't have any energy. I wanted to go lay down and sleep. I said, "Oh crap, I'm coming down with the flu." Just figured that's par for the course coming from Bakersfield. You catch anything out in that dust out there. So I went and laid down after I finished my work, which was really a struggle. This is like day one, Friday the 13th, perfect day to start all this in motion. And so and sorry, sometimes I get out of breath. It's just one of the things you get used to living with here. But I went and laid down. The next morning, got up, I felt worse. So I said, well, crap, let me go to the urgent care up here, get me a quick script for some antibiotics, and then get this thing knocked out so I can go back to work. Well, I went and got antibiotics, and the doctor says, looks like you got an upper respiratory infection. So, okay, it is what it is. Give me the antibiotics and send me on my way.
Yeah, just
He
go
gave
ahead and
me
give me
all
the
this.
Z pack, right? You're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they gave that to me. So I go home, I take that, but then I start going downhill even worse. I said, my gosh, he must have given me the antibiotic because this thing really is, it's just laughing. Whatever I've got, it's laughing at this thing. And then by about Sunday or Monday, I started running a fever. And I'm like, this is a little bit worse. I don't think I was ready for what they gave me, or they have a clue what I've got. I may need something stronger. And all the time it's in the back of your mind. Do you have the COVID-19? Do you have the coronavirus? And I'm like, no, that happens to other people. I just got a cold. So I go to the hospital, and my fever starts rising while I'm in the hospital. I stayed there for 2 hours, and then they gave me some Tylenol to try to bring the fever down, which didn't even phase the fever. It kept going up. And they did that swab for the coronavirus, and it also doubles for the flu. They stick this thing so far up your nose, you feel like it's rubbing the back of your eyeballs. And you know, I go through that, and so they come back and says, "Well, you don't have the flu." I said, "Well, I could have told you that." And they said, "Well, we're going to send you home. You just kind of communicate through this my chart updates thing." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right. Well, if I need my doctor, I'll just communicate with him." Well, Tuesday my fever went up to 103. I believe it was Wednesday it went all the way up to 104. Thursday, big fever day. All the while I'm trying to call my regular physician, who I might as well have been trying to call, President Trump, because I couldn't get anybody on the phone or anything. You leave a message, you might as well be leaving a message for somebody that never checks their messages. So Thursday, I finally I've had enough. I gotta get in touch with my doctor because I'm afraid that I'm going to have some kind of either brain damage or internal organ damage from this fever going so high. So tell me this: if you're monitoring emails and you get one that says "I am dying," that was the headline on this email, and I explained how I'd been in the bed for like 5 straight days of fever up to 104. I don't think I'm going to make it another night. I need to see somebody, doc, because this is far worse than the flu. And so I go to bed that night, and each night that I went to bed from like Thursday, I didn't think that I was going to wake up the next day. So when I woke up on Friday, I was like, "Thank you, Lord, for giving me another day to live." So I go and look at the messages, and I kid you not, I got an email back that said, "You have sent your email to the wrong place. This is customer service. You need to communicate directly with your doctor or call 911 if it's an emergency." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "You got to be kidding me." And at that point, I kind of gave up. And
I think that was about the day where, with talking with you, like I said, we talked I made sure I'm like, you know what, he's not feeling good. And I'm like, we got to I got to just stay in contact with him, right? Like, even if you didn't want to tell me, I'm like, there's something going on. Like, it was kind of unlike you at the time. And it was like, all right, I talked to you and you're like, yeah, I feel good, but this. And then I talked to you again. And then finally, like you said, you were just like, I don't know, but something ain't right. And I could tell. I mean, even though we weren't talking on the phone, we were talking through Messenger. You can still tell when someone is at that point where they're kind of like, all right, well, something's just not right.
well, I can tell you, and there's a lot of things that I did not put in my in my article to my peers, uh, that I can tell you that this whole thing messed with me psychologically. There was, one point, and I thought, I'm not a perfect, I'm not a perfect man of God, but I don't think my God expects me to be perfect. He expects me to be human as He made me, and that's why Jesus' grace is so good for us. Is that even if we fall short, He has an unconditional love for us. And I prayed that day. I said, "God, I can't take this anymore. Please just take me home." That letter had broken my spirit so bad. I just wanted to die then. And something that I didn't really tell a whole lot of people, and I'm ashamed to even admit it, but just to show you how bad this thing messes with you and brings you down, had a loaded, I keep a loaded 45 beside my bed in the nightstand. And that thought crossed my mind. When you get at such a point of despair that you think that this thing is going to wound you so bad that you're going to be a vegetable or something, and you don't want to be a burden on your family, that thought crosses your mind. But I never could bring myself to do it. Call me a coward or call me somebody who thinks beyond the moment, but I just couldn't. But I can't say with a clear conscience that I didn't think it,
Well, I can tell
because I
you
honest to goodness truth.
I can tell you that I'm grateful that you didn't. Like I've told you many a times before, you've been a mentor for me, and it was kind of weird. Now that we're really getting deep into it, but it was weird for me the first time we met because I knew who you were, right? Like, and that's one thing about this industry. You know who the people that or that you look up to. Like I was telling Jason Dukes. He's a life coach and he works with Wes and different people like that. But I was telling him like most people see like famous people, right? They see like LeBron James or they see Cruz Pedregon, uh, John Force, Courtney Enders, and they see people like that and they're like, whatever. But then they'll see a LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, um, Kawhi Leonard, people like that, and they're like, oh my God, they fan out. But when I see, like I said, like a Wes Buck, a Wes Buck, a Bobby Bennett, like I said, a Courtney Enders, or people like that, those are the people that I fangirl to. And I know, like, like I said, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I'm grateful for it too. And I've got something else for you. But first off, when we talked every day, it was like me looking up to like my big brother or like, looking up to a family member saying like, are you okay? Like, is there anything I can do to help? Like, what can I do? And just, I felt like it was kind of my responsibility was like, you know what? I've looked up to this guy, but now at this point, like, it's my job to make sure he's okay. And then
You,
oh, go ahead.
you know, one of the things, and we all know. how God works in mysterious ways. We don't understand it because He says in His Word that, and I'm not trying to get, spiritual or religious on you. I'm just telling you my life experience as it happened. I was born the son of a praying mama who never gave up praying for me till the day she died. And, you know, uh, she laid a foundation in my life that actually carried me through this time. And I can tell you that not even an hour after I asked God to take my life, my wife stuck her head in the bedroom because I was pretty much isolated. I mean, the girls and my wife was at one end of the house. My wife slept on a couch for almost a month before we would dare be in the same bed or room together. And she stuck her head in and she said, "Don't you die on me." She said, "Me and these girls can't make it without you." And that's when I realized I got to fight this. I got to do what I can do. And that night again, fever back up there at 104. I mean, you take a doggone washcloth and you wet it, put it on your forehead. Hour later, the thing is dry. And then every night the fever would break, and when it would break, you'd wake up the next morning with your pajamas soaked, t-shirts soaked, shorts soaked, everything. And you'd swear, God, did I go take a shower and not take my clothes off? And it's the whole thing, the whole psychological thing of being confined all by yourself, the quarantine. That's every bit. And I wouldn't, you know, I don't want to say it's like solitary confinement because it's not. You still do have some kind of connection there or interaction. But when your kids can't come and see you, my daughter told me, and it broke her heart. She says, "Dad, I wish you would hurry up and get better so I could hug you." Because we used to we would hug every single day, I believe, of that girl's life. And now she's 17, about to graduate, and I believe every single day we've hugged one another. That's my baby girl. And when I woke up the next morning, Saturday, this is like the eighth day of this, and I'm starting the fever. Here it comes. It's like the Amtrak coming through town again. Boom, there it goes. The fever starts rising. And I finally called one of my friends who runs a funeral parlor. And I didn't call him to make arrangements. I know it sounds like that, but I knew that he had connections with the Department of Health and Environmental Control, DHEC, here in South Carolina, who was spearheading the COVID thing. And it was so early in this deal that nobody really knew what it was. They hadn't really seen a real life case up close and personal. And he called her and he gave her every symptom. She told him, she said, "Be quiet. I can't hear this from you because of HIPAA laws." So he made a three-way call into me. I told her everything that was going on. And she says, "Mr. Bennett, I need you to get off the line. We are going to talk. He and I are going to talk." And she told him, "Get him to the hospital. Do not waste any time. Get him in there right now." And she must have known what she was talking about because when I got to the hospital, I had a fever of 104.4. And my blood sugar, because I could not keep any food down, I mean, every time I would eat something, I'd throw it right back up. I lost like 20 pounds in 11 days on the COVID diet, is what I tell people. And I just, some of the stuff that you just don't share with people. One time I threw up, I had nothing to throw up. And when I threw up, it looked like black strings. And it scared the devil out of me because I didn't know what it was. And that's what it looked like. I said, "My gosh, what the heck? I haven't eaten anything." And again, mind you, when they went to take me in Saturday, I hadn't even hardly eaten anything, maybe just one little cup of sugar-free Jello, and that's about it. And so I get to the hospital, and they take my temperature, and for anybody that's married and in love with their wife, which I love my wife, Christy. She's a little rough on the edges sometimes. She don't take a whole lot of crap. But she was a absolute Florence Nightingale angel for me. I couldn't have made it without her. And the whole time we're on the way to the hospital, there's hardly any cars on one of the busiest interstates in our state, and it's just like a dead zone. This is like March 21st, right in the middle of the pandemic lockdown, and what would be a 45-minute drive for us took us a little bit under 25 minutes, and I hardly even spoke a word to her the whole way. And she says, keep breathing. And I was struggling to breathe at the time. I couldn't breathe. I was burning up. You know, I was about, I was burning up, but yet I was freezing, if that made sense. And when I got to the hospital, they opened the door, met me with a wheelchair, told my wife, do not get out of this car. You turn around and go back home. You can't stay here. And so after knowing what I've known for the previous days, I just figured this might be the last time I ever see her. And I just told her I loved her with all my heart. And they took me in there. And when I said the key word is I didn't eat a whole lot that day, my blood sugar now normal is 100 to 109 in that range. I was 387. So if the diabetes didn't get me, the COVID would. So all these people say, oh, well, they're misdiagnosed. And these people had underlying issues. Yeah, but I had my blood sugar under control when I could take my medicine. Would you call my death diabetes related or would you call it COVID-19 related? So, these people that say this thing's like the flu, you're full of crap. You're full of crap. Whoever it is that says that, you have it one time, you'll know the difference, you know?
And and I think like we've all been there, right? Like I know when this kind of first started, before I really kind of dove right into it, and through your experience, I know I said it. I said, man, this is like the man code gone bad, right? Like you think about all the symptoms that people are saying, and oh we've and I was just like, oh, this is a man code gone bad, like. And then like you said, you start hearing about more and more people. You start, you know, and then like you and I would talk about everything that you experienced, and so it just really takes you to a totally different level, a level that you don't ever really expect is really going to happen because of what we've gone through as a country and the different diseases and the different flus and whatever, and like you said, I think you hit it right on the head. This isn't just a regular flu. This is from the government, and some people are going to say what they want to say, believe what they want to believe, but it's just kind of gotten way out of control. But and that's definitely one thing. I'm definitely glad we're on the men's side of this. You're definitely getting better. I saw the post that you were giving. What was it? Oh, you gave,
Plasma.
yep, you gave plasma, and it's awesome to see, like, when you were first coming back on the internet, going live, and just everything like that, and the whole dynamic of everything. But to kind of wrap that section up, I do want to tell you happy birthday. Like, it's awesome to me that, like, and I don't mean to bring it like that, but like you went through this whole thing, and I know yesterday when we were kind of talking, planning everything out, you're like, I'm like, hey, what are you up to tomorrow? And you're like, well, it looks like it's my birthday. And I'm like, well, I don't want to interrupt you on your birthday because that's a special day, especially like you said, with everything that just went on and how you felt. Like, this is an even more special day. But from Mad Bro Motorsports and Outlaw Performance ENT, we definitely want to wish you a very, very, very happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. One thing about that, I was in the hospital. I spent days in there, and again, I think I covered what it does to you physically. Uh, I don't think I covered what it does to you emotionally and mentally. Uh, you don't want to be around your family close up because you don't want to get anybody sick, even though you're past the contagious stage. And on the same token, it took me almost a month before I could go to the grocery store without gloves on, you know, or mask around people. And even though people have told me that I'm immune to it, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I until I can hear some scientific facts, you know. But they're it messes with you because of the, for one period at the hospital for 24 hours, outside of my nurses coming in like hazmat uniforms, I had no human interaction. You're stuck in that bed. You're stuck in the bed watching a marathon of Bar Rescue or Law and Order SVU or Chicago PD all day long in the hospital because the channels are limited there. And even when I had 104-degree temperature, I was still trying to work on competitionplus.com. Even though I had put my staff in charge of it, there did come a time that I told them, I said, guys, you're on your own here. You got to do what I've trained you to do. And Brian Wood, Susan Wade, and Tracy Rink, and the whole team, Roger, and everybody pitched in, and they proved that this deal could run without me. And it did. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I set it up to do. But, in the first days, you know, when I came home, I was very private about all of this. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want anybody to know, and I had continually calls from the racing community. Heck, I even got a call from Don the Snake Perdome checking on me. You know, John Force, uh, all these guys call and check on me. Said we heard you're sick, and I'm like, yeah. And about 2 days after I got home, somebody says, you got to tell these people. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue that this is real. And I would read on the internet post after post where people say, all this is a politically driven thing to get Trump out of office and all this. And I'm not denying that there may be some politics in there, but I knew what I experienced was not politics. That was pure, absolute hell on earth. That's what it was. And some people say big deal. Well, you could say big deal when you walked in my shoes. And so I finally got talked into writing that commentary. You think you're invincible. And the minute I put that had that thing posted, my phone rang off the hooks. Text messages right and left, Facebook right and left. All of a sudden, I became the poster boy for COVID-19. Wasn't what I wanted to be. I just wanted to tell everybody, just how real this thing was. And I could still vividly remember in the days after I wrote that. Well, like one day, one of my buddies named Jeremy put on his Facebook page, now, here's somebody that had it, Bobby Bennett's story. And then he posted a link to my deal. You think you're invincible? And somebody came back underneath that post and said, fake news. And that is something that is a term I absolutely have total disdain for. It's fake news. That's a deliberate act of trying to fool somebody or trying to deceive somebody. Journalists sometimes make mistakes. It is what it is. And without thinking, after days and days of holding back, I cut loose. And I said to this person, okay, if you think it's fake, why don't you come over here and let me cough on you or breathe on you? And then you tell me if it's a hoax. And of course, somebody said I won the internet for that whole day. I don't know if that gave me a prize like winning the COVID-19 did, but I actually felt pretty good just standing up and setting the record straight. And it's that's why I wrote it. That's why I in the whole process of being able to give plasma to help others, it was so frustrating because the Red Cross or the Blood Connection or anybody, none of them had a clue. And so that's why I really was bitter in the early goings. People says, "Oh, they said this could be a cure." I said, "No, they don't know. They're just pulling stuff out of their rear end and making it as fact." That they don't have a clue because I knew what I'd been in the hospital, and they had no clue how to treat me. They treated my diabetes more than they treated my COVID, if that makes sense. And so, when I finally did get was able to give plasma, I actually gave 4 bags of plasma that immediately the next day was sent to help 2 COVID-19 victims in North Carolina. Next state over. Then I asked them, I said, "Can I give every week?" And they said, "Lord, no, you got to give every 28 days or 30 days." I said, "No way I can give." "No, you can't. You got to have some for you too." So, so they just kind of, in other words, says, "Calm down, cowboy. You'll get your chance." But that's the thing is when you've had this, you want to try so badly to make sure nobody else has it. It's that bad. It's the closest I've ever come to death, in my lifetime that I remember. And I can tell you, you remember what I said? Let's call it what it is, a bio weapon from China. That's why I'm one of the plaintiffs on the class action lawsuit against the government of China. I'm going to sue the bastards. I'm sorry.
No, no, I don't. There's no reason to be sorry, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we're all going through it. Everybody's affected by it. And I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's a way of life because it's definitely not. But I mean, it definitely has affected our day to day activities, and I think they should be definitely held responsible for, the suffering and the pain of everyone that's been affected by it.
I want it so much more for my family who went through the sheer hell of this. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's so right now I'm starting to get life back to normal. I was going to go to some races here this month, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Uh, I could not. I could not. I just can't be in crowds like that anymore. And it is what it is. You learn to live with it.
For sure. And right now, we're going to break to one of our sponsors. And then I think when we get back, we're going to dive into just a little bit more about Competition Plus and all the great things that you guys have upcoming.
Okay.
This podcast is brought to you by the good folks over at Mad Bro Motorsports, the leading parts store in Minot, North Dakota for all your racing and performance parts needs. Call Slam and Sam and the gang over at 701-720-7996. Again, that is Mad Bro Motorsports located in Minot, North Dakota. 701-720-7996. On the way to being free. All right, so bringing it back, we're still here with Bobby Bennett from Competition Plus magazine. But so I kind of just want to talk now about like everything has kind of stopped. So you and I both are in the same boat. Granted, your platform is a lot bigger than mine. Outlaw Performance ENT Competition Plus magazine. You have a lot of things planned for the years, and you have a lot of different things going on, and then this kind of just stops. But where do you see, and I know like perfect example, you and I talked about it, and I said, well, what else do you have planned? What else are you going to do? And you said, well, I don't really feel comfortable going back, into these large crowds of people and these large races until we find a cure for it. And I stand by that 100%. But what do you think from racers that you have talked to, interviews that you've done? What do you think is going to be kind of the new, I'm just going to say the new normal of racing?
I think that everybody's going to try to do the social distancing thing, but it's going to be kind of hard when sometimes you're all over one another trying to do the same job, even in the pits. I think that there's going to be a measure that people are going to be more careful. Like I was at a birthday party for a dear friend, and I met somebody that I'd only met for the first time. Reaches out to shake their hand, and me, without thinking, reaches over and shakes their hand and say, "Hey, thank you, thank you." And we sit there for a moment. I said, "Excuse me for a minute," to my buddy. And the next thing I know, I run in the bathroom and I'm washing my hands and putting hand sanitizer on. So I think that kind of thing, uh, it may change a lot because we didn't think twice about sticking our hands out to shake somebody's hand. And in the past, if you didn't want to shake somebody's hand, you always gave the fist bump to let them know I don't really want to shake hands, but I want to acknowledge you. And that might be a little bit awkward these days, you know, the interaction because drag racing is such a close knit community. And but then again, what if I'd have made it to Gainesville and walked around for those 4 days not even knowing that I had the COVID-19? How many people would I have infected? So that's how I see it changing drag racing. But then there'll be some that says, "Oh, that crap won't happen to me." Well, I won't be one of them.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I know we kind of started doing it, where I'm at, some of the races that I know, and we've kind of done stuff. It's called, the new Wi-Fi fist bump or the, Apple phone. We're gonna airdrop one to you, and I mean, it's definitely different, right? No one expected this. No one knew really what we were stepping into and what we're still into. Um, I know, for me, it's kind of I'm sitting back here and full force, right? I ran into the 2020 race season. I started off and I was in full force. March, you go down to the Door Slammer Nationals and do some work for you, and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a great year. This is going to be the year that kind of everything changes for me and things go a little different, and then all of a sudden it's just a halt. There's nothing, right? And I know I said it. You have in basketball kind of canceled, and then all these sporting events canceled. But in the back of my heart, and I'm like, there's just no way. Like we as drag racing media, we as drag racing fans, and the actual racers and sponsors and everything like that, you don't want to see it closed because this is our American sport. This is the best sport in the world to me, and you can go anywhere in the world and do it. And it's just like it's one thing that you don't really think like, oh yeah, we're gonna shut down too.
Yeah, yeah. You don't Just like I said when I was going there, I said, "You got to be kidding me! They're gonna postpone a race here," and it just went from there. But then I realized after having it why postponing that race was important. And I think that eventually, as time goes by, we'll relax and go back to what we were. But it's going to take a while before it goes that way.
Yeah, and I mean, and then the revision of the different schedules that we've seen, and everybody's posting something different, right? Everyone is kind of sitting on their edge. Everyone is kind of just ready and roaring to go, and there's people making false accusations, putting them out on the media and different things like that. So it just you get this false hope, like okay, uh, we're gonna wait 15 days, we're gonna wait 20 days, maybe, right now we've just pushed it out so far. It's just I don't know. I like the stance of it, like looking at what T Town did this past weekend. I think that was really good. Every other row, but does that really justify of what's going on? Because like you said, I mean, this is a bigger picture.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. But you know what? I think that, as I said, it's gonna after a while we're gonna kind of get back to somewhat of a normal, unless this whole thing uh, crops back up again.
So then when I look at it, it's like, all right, what do you think that I think the media teams like people like myself, people like your team that you have going on, the limo guy, you have Wes Buck and everything that he's involved with. What do you like? I really think for a media personnel or a media team, media crew, I think we've kind of had to step up, to step out of the box to say, what else can we do since we can't go to the racing, but we still want to keep our name involved in it. We still want to, be a productive part of the racing community even in the downtime.
Yeah, fortunately for me, I have a staff of professional journalists, and we know what it takes to have to generate content on a daily basis. And my team has been very, very proficient at that. I've been able to jump back in the game, and it has been just it's what we do. It is what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of turned the eye, right? Like I knew before this, I had already started to get gear up my podcast, but I think for me it was like, okay, well, Sam, you can't go to the races, and then again, I live in Minot, North Dakota, so I mean, there's really nothing to do up here, right? Um, and so it's like for me, it was like, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to sit down and talk to people that, people that live near me or people that may be listening don't actually get a one on one and just hear people actually be themselves, actually tell their stories. Because I think that's the biggest thing when we get to these racetracks is we're so involved in, okay, what needs to get done. As a media person, you're like, okay, I need to get this interview, I need to do this. Now the cruiser, okay, they have this to do, they have that to do, they have their round maintenance or whatever it may be. But now it gives everybody kind of a time to sit back and say, you know what, this is what it takes. These are the things that we've kind of skipped over the last few years. Why don't we go back and do that? So I think it gave the media kind of an upper edge to drive home those stories and to tell what the racers really, what they really go through, what they are really experiencing, throughout the madness of everything.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been following your everything that you've been doing and the different series that you have going on. And then I'm scrolling through Facebook right now, and I don't want to mess this up because it's a big number from YouTube. So I better go over there. And if you guys have not already, go over, follow Competition Plus on Facebook. You guys are on Instagram. You guys are on YouTube. So, like, I mean, you have to support the people. Like, I know there was one today. No, maybe, yeah, with Brian Loans. Was with you. And I mean, you have names like that. And what does that feel to you to have a guy like Brian Loans that you've worked with, or the bigger names that you worked with, to see that they still are checking in on you, they still have content for you? How does that relationship and what does that feel like?
Well, the thing is that we built a good team here at Competition Plus, and we all learned how to work together as a team towards towards the same goal. And our goal is when we're at the races, we try to be the person who is there for those who cannot physically be there. We try to get the inside stories behind the stories. Anybody can write results. Not everybody can write the story of what happened en route to that result. And we try to also keep our YouTube content very fresh. We usually put up a video a day, and we're averaging, I think our two largest videos are over 1.5 million views, and got another one that if we didn't have to re-upload it would have been 1.5 million, and that's our Legends of series. And that was actually created when I was at a race, and one of the NHRA people working there, Richard Tharp, 1976 NHRA Top Fuel Champion, walked in the media center at Dallas, and I said to this person, I said, "Hey, there's Richard Tharp." And he said, "Who?" And that's when I knew that I needed to create some kind of a documentary series to let people know who these legends were and what they did to lay the foundation. and I'm a big time football fan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan to be exact.
Shout
In
out
fact,
Oakland Raiders.
when Tom Brady signed with Tampa, I was in the middle of 103, 104-degree temperature. I said, "There is no freaking way that he signed with Tampa Bay. I must be hallucinating." I got to go back to sleep. And I woke up and I didn't have a fever. And I'm like, they're still talking about this Tom Brady. It may be real. So I couldn't even celebrate it for, for thinking I was being delirious. But anyway, I watched this TV show called A Football Life. And I made it a point to watch the episodes on the players I could not stand, the people I could not stand. Why? You know, I had to watch Bill Belichick to understand why he was the way he was. And I understood here's a man that paid his dues to get to where he was at. Tom Brady didn't make him, he made himself. And then, like Steve Smith, as a Tampa Bay fan, you absolutely think the Carolina Panthers are the devil. And, sort of like Green Bay and Chicago, that's the way that one is. And I I watched his and I understood why he was, and that's the way what I wanted to create in drag racing, a way for people to watch a video where they explain well beyond what the headlines or misconceptions were of them, like the Whit Bazemore. A lot of people didn't realize what all hell he went through to get to where he was at. They just know when he was up at the top and he was mouthy and the guy you love to hate, like the villain in wrestling. But if you look, there's a guy that really paid his dues and earned the right to get to where he was to have his views. And just those things like storytellers, where the drag racing legends tell stories on video in their own words. Look at the ones that we've got of people who have passed away in the last year or so. Like Bill Donor, Tom the Mongoose McEwen. You know, we even did a Legends on the Blue Max crew, and only one of them are still alive. Just to capture that stuff on film is just priceless. Bob Glidden, we did one with Bob Glidden. Here he was. The next year, he was gone from us.
Yeah,
So I mean, it
and it
it,
and it's like
that
I'm sitting here looking at it. You have over 31,000 people following your YouTube channel. So I mean that's 31,000 different eyes that get to see it. Not alone the people that share it and different things like that. And I think that's one thing that I gravitates both of us together was this whole thing of the storytelling. But so I think it's my turn to tell a story of a legend, and do one of you. I mean, I think that's a great, you know what I mean? Just so, I mean, you've already told your story with what you've gone through with this experience, but I think it would be cool, and I probably shouldn't give my idea away on my podcast, but I'm gonna be the first one to do it, and I've wanted to do it. Right? You get someone who's at the track every day. Everyone sees, like, the people that are at the track, but no one knows what that person's doing before they get there, the setup that they have to go through, and then when they get home at night. For media, for speaking for myself, you get home at night and it's not okay, or you get done after the races, it's not like, oh yep, okay, I'm done, my job's done. No, you're looking at photos, you're looking at videos, you're uploading all this stuff, to wherever you need to upload it. And sometimes, like, in my case, sometimes the stuff doesn't upload right away because the internet that you may have at the hotel or anything may not be, good enough to do it. So I think it'd honestly be cool, like a day in the life of Bobby Bennett.
well, we can make that happen. I know some people.
Well,
Uh, you were talking about the YouTube page,
oh,
and if I can give you some numbers here, our videos have been viewed 14,642,098 times.
yeah, see, that's what I call in the outlaw performance world. You get one of these for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
our, our our number one upload has about 1.19 million views.
And rightfully so, right? You're telling. It's not like you're just kind of telling a story, halfway. No, you're digging into it. You're giving people the full races that can't be there. And I mean, it's just testament of the hard work that you've put in, over the years, and the people that you've worked with, like strut masters and different things like that. And like I said, Brian Loans, and just all the different stories and connections that you've had. So I mean, it tells the story, and a lot of people don't really get to see that stuff. But then there is a platform like YouTube, and some people may say, oh, well, they're taking advantage of it. No, they're not, because when we're still not here, someone else can go back. Yeah, there may be a different name for it, right? Like we went through Facebook, we went through Instagram, Twitter, all these other things. But unless you take the stuff that's given to you, how else are you going to get it out to the mass people? I mean, like you said, people are taking their phones into the bathroom with them to read the stories. People have their phones on their side all the day, all the time. And I know I do it. I fall asleep sometimes watching YouTube videos, and then you wake up the next day and it's like, I didn't watch these videos. Well, you fell asleep and 15 different videos have gone through, but you were watching, some drag racing clip, and your phone just keeps going. So, I mean, it's
Well,
at the point where I think we as media have to take the time to tell truthful stories of every, and it doesn't even have to be every major event. We need to tell the stories as much as we can to paint the picture of these racers. So when their fans go, to the racetrack, they have something personally that they can say, well, I relate to that, that driver about, or that story. This is why, John Force is this crazy or high tempered, and why he loves the sport and says the things he does. And they understand that. They're not like, well, what's wrong with that guy? Why is he so wound up and the next guy isn't? Because it's painted that picture, and I think that's just kind of our job.
you're exactly right. I mean, our job, is to tell the stories of the people we work with right now, and to make sure that the next generation doesn't forget the generation before them. We have a responsibility to pass this on. Much like I had it passed on to me from guys like Dave Wallace, like John Asher, like Stevie Collison, and those guys are Les Lovett, Phil Burgess. Those guys passed that stuff on to me, and it's my responsibility to pass it on to the other players.
All right. So what we're gonna break to another sponsor right now, and then we're gonna go into the section called Round Robin. ALS Teca Mexican food located here in Minot, North Dakota on the north side. If you want the best and authentic Mexican food located in Minot, North Dakota, please check out the gang up at ALS Teca Mexican food located right near the Minot International Airport. Go up there, try one of the burritos, and I guarantee you will not leave hungry. The best and authentic Mexican food here in Minot, North Dakota. Again, that is LS Teca for all your dine-in and dine-out needs. All right, so now I'm taking you to a section. It's a new section that I've kind of started. It's going to be called Round Robin. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, just give me that answer. So, favorite car?
Favorite car, 1967 Corvette Stingray.
Ooh, nice. Okay, favorite top fuel driver?
Mm,
See, you're
wow.
you're thinking too much about that one.
Wow. I have so many.
All right, just throw one out there. No one's gonna get their feelings hurt. I hope.
I really like Joe Amato. He
All
was
right.
pretty cool as hell.
Favorite pro stock driver.
Favorite pro stock driver, Lee Shepard.
Um, favorite funny car driver.
Funny car driver, John Force.
What? Okay.
Although I did like the snake growing up until I met him when he was still racing, and then I started liking the goose. Mongoose, he was very special to me. And I tell you what, when I found out he died, I was in Australia, and you can ask Jake Simmons. I cried like a baby. It was like losing my favorite uncle.
So you said John Force. Why? What would be your best or your favorite John Force memory, or like anything that you could say of like meeting John Force, talking to him? What would be something that sticks out to you that is special about John Force?
The day he got pissed off at me, the day he got pissed off at me, uh, we had reported that Mike Neff uh, was going to replace Austin Coyle. Force calls me up because it's blown up the whole internet. What the F are you doing to me, Bobby? Why would you report something like that? I said, Champ, is it not true? If it's not true, I'll take it. I'll write a retraction and take it down. He says, no, it is true. I said, well, then what the hell are you fussing at me about? He says, because I didn't have a chance to tell him. I said, my God, John, shouldn't he have found out about it before I did? Well, yeah, I still love you. I ain't mad at you. I said, well, okay. Well, I'm glad. I'm sorry, champ.
I'm sitting here
And
laughing because
and then he says, and then after a while, we were getting stuff out about his team sometimes before he even knew it. And he's like, I'm calling you today. I said, what are you calling me for? What, are you going to fuss at me? He says, no, I just want to find out what else is going on in my team that I don't know about. But then you get moments with him like the John Force Christmas story that just absolutely breaks your heart. The John Force, the John Force Legends episode when he's talking about his father, and it breaks his heart because he's in tears with regret. That's the kind of John Force I know, the one that will stop what he's doing to go talk to me. Because once you're his friend, you're his friend. And he knows, I've told him, I said, Champ, there's parts of my job I love and parts that I don't love. Guess which ones I don't love? He says, when you have to write crap about me. I said, that's the part I don't like, but I got to do my job. He said, I understand. I understand. And that's the kind of relationship that I have with a lot of, drivers out there. Parts of it I love and parts of it I don't love.
so I gotta ask, if you have that relationship with John Force, so what is, when you see him on TV, and I know I can answer this question, but when you see John on TV, is that the same John that you are getting in person, or because I think a lot of people believe it's all for TV.
It's what you see is what you get. He is the funniest son of a gun. He's the most intense son of a gun. And I tell you what, if you want to see intensity, go look up John Force Unbreakable video we did back in 2016. I caught him and I got him wound up. And let me tell you something, nobody gets him wound up like I do. If I was racing, I'd know how to get in his head big time. And I get him wound up, and he tells me stuff he wouldn't tell anybody else, or at least I believe that, because I have yet to see it on anybody else's films. But he opens up and he bears part of his soul, you know, and it's really tough on him. And yeah, he's just he. What you see is what you get. And when this sport lost him for that year or the rest of that year, our sport suffered because of it. And I have always believed from day one that the only person that can absolutely remotely kind of step in John Force's shoes would be Stevie Fast Jackson. That's the
See,
only person.
I that was gonna
Nobody else could do it. If they tried to be him, they'd look fake. But he's the only one that can talk the talk, and he can drive the wheels off a car.
And see, I was going to
He
ask you about that. Like that was going to be my next question. Who would you think could replace John Force?
That's the only one. And I'm gonna tell you what, I mentioned that to Johnny. He said, "What the hell are you trying to get me out of the car for? You think I'm too old to drive?" I said, "No, I'm just talking about when you go to step away. If you need somebody that's going to be the best for your program, that man's the best, hands down, not even a close second."
So yeah, I mean, and I've met Steve and I've talked to him, and great guy, great competitor, and I think that's kind of what more of our sports needs, right? You see all this stuff of they're just all get along, they get pissed off at each other and just throw their hats. We saw a little bit of it at the top end with Steve Torrance last year, and that whole situation. But I really think, and I know, John Force, he gets fined for it, when he goes on his tangent, but I sit back and I'm like, why are we punishing him for being exactly like, I understand it's TV, right? I understand you can't say some things on TV. You can kind of say it whatever you want on the internet, but why are we punishing a guy for being who he is? You guys knew who he was, years ago. Don't, you know, don't ask the question at the top end when you know he's coming out of the car and, he's irate. I mean, if you don't want the truth, then just don't ask the question.
Well, you can't tell your girl that it's okay for her to date other people and then blow a gasket when she does. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. You
I mean,
can't tell drivers you want emotion and passion, and then fine them if they get emotional or passionate.
yeah,
Because if that would have been the case, I probably would have gotten fined or thrown out if I'd have been racing. Because I'm gonna tell you what, if somebody hung me out to dry or playing games with me up there on the start line, we're gonna have a talk. I came from the group of where you hit first and ask questions later, and I would probably let you know my mouth override what I should have done professionally, and I might get up in a guy's face and ask him, "What the heck are you trying to prove here?" And it just. But I can tell you, if somebody jumped on me on the top end, I would have probably they probably wouldn't have walked away from it. That's just the way it is. My old saying is, "Don't start no crap, there won't be no crap." That's what we used to say on the ball field. Hey, you don't want to get stung by a bee, don't go messing with the nest. Just leave the nest alone. The nest will be fine. Because I ain't gonna come out of the nest and sting you. You know what I mean?
exactly. And I think, I don't know. I think this may show a different light of it, and I think when everybody gets back to racing, I think there's going to be a lot of, we're going to see a lot of different emotions out of people, and I think it'll be great. So next question. Favorite racetrack?
Favorite racetrack? Oh, I absolutely Z-Max Dragway.
Whoa, come on. I was expecting something else out of that. I thought you were
What?
going to say Bandamere, to be honest with you.
Well, I like Vandermeer. I just don't like having to work in that little bitty press room.
All right. All right. Yeah, I've never
You
been
want
to.
the media, you can't park the media in the. You want top fuelers, you can't park them in the grass.
Ooh, ooh, ouch. Shots
You want top
fired.
fuelers, you got to park them on the pavement. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
for
Same way
sure.
with the media. You want the media to show up, you don't put them in a broom closet.
Mm. All right. Let's see. What else do I have for you?
But let me do an addition to that. As long as I got what I need to do the job, I'm fine. And that includes plenty of space to work in because I work off of two computers, one for words and one for video. I need an internet connection so I can do my job. You know, you're not going to send out guys out there to run down the track without prepping the track, right? Then you can't expect your media to come in and work without an internet signal. And that's the way it is. I mean, you want us to do the job, you give us the tools to do the job. We'll bring our own tools. We're professionals. We know how to. set our pit up and do our job. But you got to give us something to work with. You're not going to send a top fueler again, out in the grass to park. Same way being the press room. You got to give them a decent place to work. I mean, I went to Sydney Dragway in Australia, and I worked out of what was essentially the old storage room, and we only had a window to look out of that we were usually blocked by people standing in front of. As a result, I've never gone back to that track again. Why? Because I'm not going to put myself through that, trying to do the best job I can when the conditions are not there to do it. That's not being a prima donna. That's being professional.
And I think, and that's one thing that I want you to know, and everyone out here. No one is talking crap about any place, or I mean, you're just being honest. And that's the thing about this podcast is I want people to come on and be themselves and just tell it like it is. I mean, we're all at the end of the day, we're all human. We like and dislike things. But it's kind of weird because my next question is, where has this sport taken you? Like the favorite place that you've been. You just said you were in Australia. Where else have you gone that this sport has taken you that you really like?
Well, here's the deal. I was invited to come down by the Aruba Tourism to cover drag racing down there, and at times it was the damnedest thing I ever seen in my life. Because whatever you think can't happen did happen, and I know particularly on my trip down there. I mean, they put me up in a nice hotel. I could see the ocean from my room, and every day because I had to work so late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then have to be up at about uh, 12. I had to leave for the track about 12 or 1 every day. Lots of times when I got up, the only time I would see the ocean is I would get out of my room, walk across the street, walk across the beach, walk into the ocean up to my chest, turn around and walk back to my room, shower and get dressed and go to the racetrack. And it was stuff like, one time the race was stopped because there was, the beer supply had run out in the concession stand, so the fans went all over the track until they got the beer. So, with the beer crisis resolved, then they went back to racing, and then there was a big fuss in the pits because one guy was racing, and while he was running, his wife was sleeping with the crew chief in the vehicle, and just stuff like that, and had to clear the goats off the top end one time. You know, but it was absolutely some great racing. It was absolutely some great racing, but it was entertaining as well.
So I bet you left there and was like, yeah, probably not coming back here again.
Yeah, well, I would have came back, and I did get a day or two to go out in the ocean and ride jet skis and stuff like that. But been there, been to Qatar, and that was a tough place to cover races from, and then I had a host uh, that kind of I don't want to say a chaperone or whatever. And every morning I'd go out jogging and run 2 miles. And of course, this is right in the middle when they're catching Americans and beheading them and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, I said, God, I had to be stupid running out there without anybody with me. You just stuff like that. But the people at the races were so nice. But then I went with my, I guess you call him the handler, went down to the market and I got to see what racism was firsthand. You wouldn't think, well, what's a white guy know about racism? Well, I found it out when you get over there and you're the white man. You're not the guy that people likes too much. Based on past stuff that's happened. But my people over there were absolutely as nice as they could be. The racers were as nice as they could be, and the racing was pretty doggone neat. But the weird thing about cutter was when I was coming back. Uh, I had a kidney stone hit me as I got on the airplane. I said, God, I don't want to get stuck here with this, and it was hurting so bad. Well, I had some sleeping pills that one of the racer guys had given me when I'm down in Australia to get myself back on the right time schedule. So I took one of those and fell asleep, slept the whole flight back, and then got up, went to the bathroom, passed the kidney stone, and then went home. Dang this thing.
No way, no way, no way. Um, okay, this one, like I said, I'm not meaning to get you in any trouble, but
I
this one,
don't care. Look, let me tell you something about me. Graham Light called me one day and said, "Congratulations." I said, "What did I do now?" He said, "You have succeeded to make people on three continents at one time angry at you. So until you've had people on three continents angry at you, you haven't done crap."
all right, so here it goes.
All right.
Favorite promoter, favorite race promoter.
Uh, Actually, he's no longer alive. It's a legendary Bill Donor. Bill Donor, without a doubt, the man who crafted the '64 funny cars, had Linda Lovelace as his race queen. Yeah, you don't even know who Linda Lovelace is, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you got me there. I mean, I
Yeah,
wrote it
yeah. Well,
down, so I
she was
will
a
be looking it
famous.
up.
She was a famous pornographic actress. I'm sorry.
So I won't
Uh,
be looking that
and
up.
he had her as a race queen, and he got beat up so bad about it, he had to have this little boy that sang hamburger jingles the next year. Got beat up by his sponsors, but this is the guy that owned the entire West Coast. But then, now we look at promoters like Donald Duck Long. I mean, give the guy his due, man. He is the Pied Piper of drag radial racing.
Okay, since you talked about it, I love Donald. I know you and I have had a conversation about him before. In my eyes, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people say, "Oh, he's so arrogant, he's so this, he's so that, he's so flashy, he does all this crazy stuff." But in my eyes, as a fan of his also, and as someone that's in the media industry, as a promoter, he's putting on a show. And what he does is no different than what John Force does at the top end. They just love the sport, and what he's doing is drawing people into his races. If you don't get it, as much as you're like, "Oh my god, he's so crazy, I can't believe it," but you're still watching it. People still tune in to see what he's going to say because they're like, "Well, what's coming next?" No one ever
Because
knows.
that's his alter ego. He has an alter ego. There's Donald Long, and then there's Duck. Donald Long is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. Always been kind, cordial to me. Uh, Duck, well, he's just a different bird. He's totally different. And in that same vein, when it comes to more of a NHRA style of promoting, I dare to say NHRA style, Bill Bader Jr. Excellent. He's excellent at working the crowd. Getting people in. I mean, when you look at what all that family has you know achieved, it's phenomenal. But it's apples to oranges, two different styles, but two great promoters. And when you throw in the legendary Bill Donor in there, they all second to Donor. I'm sorry, he was the original. The '64 funny cars. That was it. That's the man that did it.
Yeah, so I like it. So in final closing with and like I said, I thank you for spending your birthday here with us at Outlaw Performance ENT. I thank you for the opportunity to just work for you and to grow my craft and to help you. And I look forward to the things that we'll work on in the future. But to younger up and coming media people like myself, people that want to get into this, that love the sport, what would you tell someone like myself or anyone else of, especially approaching someone like yourself that has been in the industry for a while, about potentially doing any work for them? Or, what would you tell people like myself or anyone else of like, what would be your words of encouragement, I should say?
Don't do this for the money. If money motivates you, then this is not the right sport for you. The passion has to be what the passion is. Uh, for people like me, I did all the low jobs, all the jobs that nobody would take. I did that to come up through the ranks. I learned from the best of the business, like Dave Wallace, and the John Ashers. I learned from those guys, and you always have just be a grinder. Never give up. Work your butt off. Uh, be someone who makes an editor's job easy. Uh, don't be afraid to learn, because I'm learning every day, and I've been doing this. I published my first magazine when I was 12 years old back in 1979, and I'm still doing it here, and I turned 53 today. And it's always a continual job of learning. It's just never be afraid to learn. Have a humble nature, listen, and understand that criticism, at least when it comes from me, is not personal. I'm just trying to make you better. Uh, I try to, give people their platform. Look, if I'm gonna go to a restaurant, like I went to the Outback tonight, I didn't go in there and tell the chef how to cook my steak. The only parameters that I gave him was I wanted it medium rare. That's all I did, and I let him do the rest. So the same way with the editor. I mean, those of us, I'm gonna tell you what I would like, but I ain't gonna tell you the ingredients to use in the meal you're gonna prepare for me. And so that's bottom line. Treat it like it's the last drag race you're ever gonna go to in your life, and you want to be the best.
Yeah, that's deep. I mean, I definitely take something out of that. And like I said,
But on the same token, don't give up. Don't quit, because I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people don't know this about me, and I'm gonna share it with your listeners. I don't even have a high school diploma. I don't. I fell a half a credit short of getting my diploma because I just did not want to go to school anymore. That was just it. A half a credit short. And all these years when I first got started, I was called the dumb hillbilly hick. Oh, you're there in South Carolina. You're just a dumb hick Southerner. And I took out all of those insults. Every one of those insults, I took them, but I strove to be better. And I hired a guy that worked in NASCAR for years, wasn't in drag racing, that didn't hardly know me. And I told him, I said, I want you to make me better. I want you to make me better. And this was a little bit later in my career. I told him, I want you to make me better. I want you to make me so mad with your criticism that I want to fight you. And he did. He took it to the limit every time. But like 3 years in, he told me, he says, I could keep taking your money, but you don't need me anymore. You have become the writer you wanted to be. And I still call on him from time to time if I have a question. But now all those people that made fun of me, oh, I sign their paychecks. One thing you'll learn in the business: the toes you step on today will be connected somehow to the butt you'll have to kiss tomorrow.
that's deep. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely listening, right? I mean, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I know we've talked, and there's days where I'm like, man, I like, especially right now, you're sitting there and you're like, well, is anybody gonna remember me? I mean, I was at that race in March. I was posting videos then. Well, now I don't really have as much content. So is anyone gonna remember? And like I said, it's people like you that I definitely owe it to for giving me the chance, for believing in me, for even taking the time at PRI to say something. Right? I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm not. I wasn't. I'm that guy. I get, like I said, I shouldn't say starstruck, but it's like, um, they don't need to waste their time on me. And you definitely, hey, how's it going? And we, like I said, we hit it off from there. So I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done, the chances that you've given me, and everything that we can work on with Competition Plus in the future. And again, happy birthday from everybody that's going to listen to this. I hope you have a great day, and just thank you for telling your story to us and just opening up and telling the world who Bobby Bennett truly is and the things that you've experienced.
I was just a kid who got in drag racing when he was 12 years old. Mom wouldn't take me to the drag strip because she said there was too much beer drinking and fighting going on. I lived about a mile away from a drag strip, and my dad wouldn't take me because $5 was too much money to spend on a drag race, So he couldn't take me either. So I did what any other kid that would do. I made my own way. I hopped on my bicycle and rode down there and lied to the man at the gate to gain admission. And well, my dad caught me, made me go tell the man the truth. I ended up getting a job at the drag strip, and within 2 years, I was running the racetrack at 14 years old, and also publishing my own magazine. And I think at 14 years old, I was bringing in about 150 to $175 a week back in 1981, 82. And, sometimes if nobody will give you a chance, you have to make your chance. When I was 19 years old, I wanted to write for Superstock and Drag Illustrated magazine, and nobody would give me a chance. They say, send me some samples of your work. And I said, well, nobody will give me a chance. I said, well, when they do, send us some samples and we'll consider giving you a shot. And it was just like a catch 22. So I went to North Carolina National Bank, which is now Bank of America, and borrowed $1,500 and started my own magazine called competitionplus.com. Oh, well, there wasn't a .com, but it was Competition Plus. It was a black and white 40-page sportsman magazine because I couldn't afford color, but I could make a black and white magazine. And I had about 800 and something subscribers, lasted about 8 months until I went broke. And then I sold my first article to Steve Collison at Superstock and Drag Illustrated on an obscure bracket racer named Scotty Cannon that made the cover of the magazine, the January '88 issue. And then everybody gave me a chance. Well, I was so brokenhearted from having to close down Competition Plus, I said that if I ever got the money to do another magazine, I would call it Competition Plus and I would make it a success. Thus the name competitionplus.com. So sometimes when nobody will give you a chance, you have to make your own chance.
You guys have heard it here first from Bobby's mouth. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I like I said, I can't thank you enough for giving me that chance and just continually believing in me and supporting what all I have going on and what I can offer. So um, again, we want you to celebrate your birthday. Go and eat some cake and some ice cream if you haven't already done it. I know you were at Outback. I saw the picture earlier, so. Um,
Well, I can tell you this: don't fret if you're small. Don't get worried if you're small time and you have a vision of where you want to go. Because as I always tried to tell those guys back in 1999 when we started, and they made fun of us and everything. Just remember, Jaws was once a baby fish.
Yeah, unreal. Unreal. Well, again, thank you for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so very much, man. Appreciate your time.
All right. Well, we'll talk at you later.
All right. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye. This is another episode of In the Groove podcast brought to you by LS Teca Mexican Food, Mad Bro Motorsports, and Outlaw Performance ENT. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of this great podcast, In the Groove. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until next time, signing out. Peace. All right, everybody. So that was Bobby Bennett Competition Plus magazine. And again, guys, if you ever want to get on an episode with us, you guys know what to do. Just give me a call. Hit us up on Facebook. It is Outlaw Performance ENT. Instagram, Outlaw Performance ENT. And YouTube. Go over to YouTube and go over to all our social medias. Hit the like bell. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already. And the notification tab, too. So that way you can get all the updated stuff with us. But if you were wondering how to make a podcast, let me just tell you about that. So I just want to tell you guys about the easiest way to start a free podcast. A place where you can go, where there's a creative tool that allows you to edit your podcast from your phone and your computer. It's Anchor. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on every platform. I'm talking Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum. I mean, it's just the way to go. So if you have not done already, please go over to anchor.fm, download the Anchor app, and get started for free today.